Hello guys and welcome to Neos again. So as you can see, I'm now using the Oculus Rift with the new touch controllers. Neos supports them natively, so you don't have to use SteamVR. It communicates with SDK directly, and essentially they work pretty much the same as the Vive controllers. Of course, there are slight differences. They are generally found them to be very nice controllers. They feel very smooth, although the tracking range is somewhat lower than the Vive has, but despite that, it's very fun to use Neos with them. So let's take a look and let's see what we can do and what else is new. So first, I'm going to start a new server, Squarespace. So let's just click there, and there it is. So essentially, everything works pretty much the same. The mapping is similar to Vive controller, so you use the grip button to grab things. You can grab them in two places to scale them. The trigger is for the primary action of the tooltip, which in this case is a drawing tool. The Y button is essentially like a secondary action, which is indicated by this icon. And this by default, this is teleporting. So when I press the Y button or the B button on the second controller, I can move around. And if I press the button below, the X button or the A button, I can switch the secondary action. So when I switch it to the cross, so this is delete. So when I draw something and I want to delete it, I first grab it and I press the Y button and it gets deleted. And the last secondary action is secondary action of the tooltip, but the drawing tooltip has no secondary action at the moment. So let's use a tooltip which does. For example, this one. This is the material gun. So if I want to equip it, I double press the grip. It's equipped like this. Now we need to let's find some material like this one. I put it in. I point at it. And I change the material, but this tool also has a secondary function, and it is that I can extract materials from other objects. So for example, I want to extract material from the ground. I need to have it switched so the secondary mode is secondary mode of the tooltip. And now when I point at it and I press the Y button, I extract material, I get a new material orb, and I can apply it to other things now. So the controls are pretty much the same. I haven't implemented use for the what's the name, for the axis controller, for the analog controller yet. I will probably implement for the basic tools. I will implement some basic. Actually, there is one use, and that is when I use a secondary action, but it doesn't work very well right now because yeah, you can use it to change the color, but it's going to be a lot more polished later. So right now it's mostly the same, and I will later also use these, so you can also use them to move around, like turn around and things like that. But for now, this should work. So let's take a look at some other things that are new. There are some additions to the inspector which make it a lot more complete. So let's grab the inspector tool and let's open inspector for the ground. So I have one here. So this is the ground object. Let's double click it to see the components attached to it. And as you can see, this is pretty much the same as in the last update. I can see all the components attached. You can now also delete the components, but I'm not going to do that yet. But what's important, I can also attach new components. So when I press attach component, it will open a new menu. There are a few simple categories. Also, the categorization right now is quite preliminary. I still need to think of a better way to categorize them. A lot of the components are in the uncategorized section, but there are some important ones already categorized. So for example, one of the new components I have is in the assets. I have procedure textures. There's a single one for now, just for testing, but there's also another one which is I haven't categorized it yet. But let's attach the noise texture to the ground. So let's double click it. So now it's here, and now I can actually bring it to some use. Now it's just sitting on the object. It's not doing anything. it essentially implements a texture provider interface, meaning that it can be used with any mesh renderer or any object or any other component, which in this case is just mesh renderer, that uses textures. So I can use the material that is already on the ground. So if I look at this is the material or the component which provides the material for the ground, and this is the mesh renderer which references this. And as you can see, it has a lot of properties. It has also albedo textures, and this is currently set to null, which means it doesn't use any. But if I want to assign it, I can just I hover above it, I press the grip button, and now I'm essentially holding a reference to this component, and I can just go and I drop it above the albedo texture. And there it is, you can see it immediately. What's super cool is is that you can see that the noise texture, it has some properties. It has seed, it has monochrome, it has size and mipmaps, although it doesn't use those. And I can actually start changing the properties. So when I click into this field and I grab my virtual keyboard, you can use the physical one, but for me it's quite far away, so I'm going to use the virtual one. I can start changing the value, and you can see that it changes immediately. But what the system does is actually computing the changes in the background. So, but it's just so fast that it seems immediate. But I can tweak the properties, like if I set it to monochrome, and if I increase the size, let's type some very big number like 4096 by 4096. And there it is. This is very fine texture. It's actually very difficult to see the changes right now. So if I, for example, if I change it, yeah, it's changed, but it's difficult to see because it's so fine. I can do something different. I can change the UV scale of the ground, so it's much larger. And it's actually here on the quad mesh. This is the component which provides the geometry data for the ground, and it does UV scale. So I can adjust it, and it will actually update the mesh and its UVs. So, and the UVs used to map the texture. So if I make the scale smaller, it's actually going to be bigger. So let's type in 0.5, and I just grab the value and I drop it here, so I don't have to type it again. So now it's much bigger. And now when I actually start changing, like let me change the seed number. You can see it actually changes like a few seconds to 1 or 2 seconds after I make the modifications. Let's try again while having all of this in my visual field. And there we go, it changed. So essentially the computation happens in the background, and only then it's integrated with the world, and I can actually start changing it faster than it updates, and it will keep generating new texture to always reflect the latest state of this component. So I changed it so it's not monochrome, but it's colored. So it works pretty neatly like this. And essentially you can use the system to have full control over the environment. And what's important is that it's all of this is synchronized. So you can have other people join in, you can edit this together, you can even like have one person open the inspector and oops, I didn't want this. And you can like grab the reference to plan something and drop it over their own inspector, and essentially collaborate. I'm going to show you another thing with what you can do is with these orbs. So let's take, for example, this one, the ward orb, and let's teleport back. Actually, I don't need to be teleport back, but it's nice here. I have this one here. So what I want to do is now essentially to add a new object to this. I want to add a label. So I know that it's a word, even though I can see it, but it's a simple example. So I still have my inspector tool. So I just point at it, open it, and here I can see the orb object. So I double click it. Now I can see all the components attached to this, but I'm actually not interested in those. I want to add a child object, and to do that I use this plus button on the top. So when I press it, this added a new child object. So when I double click this one, you can see it's empty. It only has the standard transform and name, more or less, and whether it's active or not. And essentially it's empty, it's not doing anything right now. It exists in the system, but for it to do something, I need to attach new components. So I press attach component, and I want text renderer. It's in rendering, and there's text renderer. So you can see it's now attached, and it has a field text. So if I click into this field, I can start typing something. So let's type world. There we go. So now you can actually see it already. The changes are immediate. So if I keep typing, it's going to reflect it immediately. But now I want to, because it's inside, I want to move it a little bit upwards. So I'm going to use the position field. And here I type 0.1. Yeah, it looks nice. And actually I want to make it a little bit smaller. Let's type 0.2 to the size. And now I can actually move it a little bit lower. So it's, yeah, this looks nice. I want to change the color, so I'm going to set the red to 0. And let's set green to half, so it's this nice blue color. And you see, I have essentially added a new object. It's in the coordinate system of the orb itself. So if I grab the orb, it moves with it. This works pretty much the same as it would in Unity Engine or Unreal Engine, except what's important is that you do it from within VR, and what's even more important is that this is synchronized. So you can have multiple people in the same session, and you can do this all together. You can collaboratively modify the scene from within. And what's also cool is that even if you, like I mentioned in my last devlog update, this is the bottom layer. This is this is like the basic primitives from which every environment, every application, every scenery, every object is, and every behavior is built. But normally you'd be using these more high-level tools to do most of the editing, because this is quite laborious, and this is not very VR way of doing it. But what's neat is even when you do this, it still works with the other tools. So for example, if I grab, I have it, oh, there it is. When I grab the tool, I can still use it. Oops. Or not. It's strange. I think I might have changed something accidentally. Huh, that is strange. Let's actually check it out. Like, there should be component snapper, yes. Snap whitelist, yeah. Let's try the other one. This is curious. Ah, this is super strange. I think I have accidentally broken something. Let's actually make a reference. Let's look at this orb and let's see what's different. So I have the snapper. Oh, I see. I have accidentally added a whitelist. The snapper component, which essentially does the snapping, like it snaps it into the tool. It does. It can have a whitelist of target objects, and I have essentially added. Ooh, and I have broken it. So we are back. There was a little bug. So this, you can see, this is one of the reasons we are still in alpha. You can break the system easily, especially if you are using the inspector. But what I wanted to show you is when you make modifications to the objects. Like for example, I essentially added a new object into the coordinate system of this orb, but it still keeps working the same. Let me just grab this tool. So I can grab it, I can put it in, and I can apply it. I can apply it to my controller. So I have a World Touch controller now. But it also works with other tools. Like if I grab the duplicator tool and I grab the word, I can duplicate it, and it's duplicated with my modifications. And I can do other things. For example, I can create, using the inspector, I can even create simpler relationships. And let's say I want to do something silly. I want to take a position of my controller and use it to drive the scale of the text. So what I do is first I open inspector for myself. There we go. So this is my head-mounted display. But I want my controller, so I need to go higher in the hierarchy. Even higher. So I can use this button. This is me, this is user. And let's double click the left. This is the left controller, and as you can see, it changes as I move it around. Yeah, this is good. So essentially what I want to do is I want to copy this position or create a component which copies this position to the scale of this text. Essentially this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to attach a new component to this, and in the transform I have drivers. There's not too many of them. I'm going to add a lot more components soon, but the focus was on just getting these generic things to work, so you can actually attach components from within and interact with them and set their properties. And what I have a component value copy, which is generic, and it uses any type T. And essentially the way it's implemented right now is when I click it, I have a bunch of predefined types that it works with. Later on, you will be able to actually type in your own type, and of course the system will have to validate it, but for now this works quite good actually, because it's very rare that I would want any type that's not listed in here. And essentially the position and the scale, they are three-dimensional vectors, and that's the type was called float3, this one. So I want this variant. So I attach it, so it's now here. And you can see it has two fields, it has source and target. So as the source, I'm going to use the position. So I'm going to hover above the field, and I'm going to grab a reference to the essentially to this field, and I'm going to drop it over at the source. And now I'm going to, as the target, I'm going to set the scale. So I grab it and I drop it over target, and as you can see, it starts changing. And you can see on the word orb that it's actually changing, and as I move my controller around, it does this silly stuff. And what's cool, again, it works with the duplicator, so if I make multiple of them, they all work the same. Essentially what the duplicator does is that whenever you are duplicating an object, it looks at its hierarchy, and any references within that hierarchy, it will transfer to the new object. So when it makes a copy of the orb, it makes a copy of this object and all of these fields, and you will see that there's a reference to this field, and the reference is part of the hierarchy itself, so it will transfer the hierarchy to the new object. But if the reference points to something outside, like my controller, which is a different object, then it will keep that reference. So this is very, very, very simple interaction. And essentially you would use this to create a lot of more complex interactions, like these are basic principles from which you can build almost any application, especially later when the system will allow you to nicely create complex interactions and relationships using Logic's programming system, which is in the works, and ability to write your own components, so you can actually script your own code and provide behavior for those components, and then attach them to objects or create tools which will essentially do the attaching for you. Anyway, so another thing that I want to show you is it's not that big important change, but it's very neat. And it will actually allow me to show you some other things, is when I import a music file or a sound file. So let's find one. So this one. I just grab this, it's a FLAC file. And if I drop it here, and you can immediately see the player has been updated. And now it essentially renders the waveform of the audio. So you can better predict what the audio looks like, where are like the peaks and such. And if I play it, I'm not sure if you can hear it, if it's recording the audio. It should be recording, but yes, you can see. This is the intro music, by the way. Anyway, what was also very cool is that essentially you can now use the inspector to actually look how this player is constructed. So I can point it at it, and if I press it and open it, now I can find. You can see there's the track. This looks like it's the object which displays the track, but that's not the entire player. So I'm going to go one level up in the hierarchy. For some objects which don't have defined object root, they essentially the inspector opens at for whichever object holds the collider, which the laser intersects. So I have the player here, so I can open it, and you can actually see how is the waveform the waveform implemented. It's actually this component, audio waveform texture, and it's a component which provides texture data, and it's generated procedurally based on some reference to audio clip provider, which is this one, and if you look closely, it has reference to the FLAC file, and there are some other properties, and I can actually start messing with it. I can, for example, let's say I want the spikes to be a lot more detailed. Like you can see I cannot see so many details, so you can see there's the size, and if I grab my keyboard, I can actually type in a much higher number, and again the generation, it happens in the background. So you can see this is 409 406, and there we go, and you can see it's much more detailed now. I can even change the colors, like the foreground color. So if I change it to 0, yeah, it's going to, this looks bad actually. Let's change it back. There we go. So you can see, you can actually start messing with the system, see how it's set up. Yeah, you can also see there's like the audio clip layer. This is the component which actually decodes, or it doesn't technically decode, it just fetches the data and provides it in little chunks of samples. And there's audio output which uses the audio clip player, and essentially it plays the chunks of audio in the environment. And there are some other component like the simple audio player. This is essentially a component which provides the interactions. Like when I touch this, essentially it receives the event of the touch, and it will make changes. So it starts playing. It actually starts playing the audio. It will update. It will update the needle and provide all the interactions. There's the grabbable, which essentially provides the grabbing interaction. And there's some other stuff, and you are essentially free to use the inspector, play around, see how things are built, and even build your own. So it's pretty powerful systems, which gives you complete control. And what's great about it is that it's fully synchronized. Like everything that I'm using, even the inspector itself, it's part of the same description of the word. And the inspector itself is synchronized across the network. So when we open one and make some modifications, the system makes sure that everyone sees the same thing. And all the modifications are essentially put together and ensured that they stay consistent. Anyway, so another big change is that we also have Android support. But this environment, this is actually too heavy for Android. If I look over here, you can see there's a lot of PBR materials, and each one of them has high resolution textures, and it has like 6 of them or so. And that would essentially, if I connected to this environment on the phone, it would run a lot of memory, and it would crash. At least in the current state. Later on, this will be handled properly. But if I close this environment, you can see that we have a new option, and there's a mobile scratch space, and this is essentially version of scratch space that is much more friendly to mobile phones. It doesn't have as many material orbs, and it has just simple diffuse material for the ground. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. I have all the tools, so you can start playing with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm now going to join on my mobile phone. So let's do that. So I'm going to position the camera here, so you can actually see both me in the Oculus and the phone. And I'm going to connect the phone to the session that is running right now. So as you can see, I have 2 versions of Neos, one for Gear VR, but I'm going to use the one that works on the screen, so you can actually see what's going on. So I'm going to launch it. Well, actually I have it running. Actually, let me just restart it. I have some old test running there. So let's start it. By the way, right now it takes a while to load. It's not very optimized, especially not in initialization. However, there are a lot of changes that I made to the system, so it actually runs much better. For example, I have implemented or integrated the Opus codec for audio, which has much better performance, and it also has better quality at the same bitrate, so it benefits the desktop version as well. And so it's initializing. And I made some other changes which essentially cause problems on Android, so it runs very smoothly right now. So you can see it's running. I can look around. It's essentially the same Neos, of course with much less power, but that's to be expected from a phone. And what I'm going to do is I can already see the session running on my computer, so I'm going to connect to it. So I'm going to position and join, and it will take a few seconds to load. You have to be patient right now. And there we go. So it's connecting, it's loading. I can actually start looking. Oh, it's loading now. And there we go. So you can see I can actually look around. I see the headset already. I see the tools. I see well, everything. And let me just position it like this. So I'm going to put the phone like this so the camera can see it, but so you can also see me. So I'm going to jump into the headset and let's continue from there. Actually, let's move it all up a little bit like this. So here I am in the headset again, and as you can see, you should be able to see me on the phone. Essentially, it's all synchronized over network like any other Neo session. The only difference is, of course, that the mobile phone has much less CPU and GPU power and much less memory, so you can't afford to do as much stuff as you would on the computer screen. But other than that, you can actually do whatever you can do in Neo. So, for example, I can draw. So I can draw. Let's draw. Hello. Hello, and I can grab the glue and I can glue it all together. And I can grab the material gun and change the material like this. So now it's glued. I make it large. Oh, I see. I glued it to the time accidentally. I can grab the duplicator tool, and I can make copies. I can even import stuff. So, for example, or I can move the sun around, and ooh, you can see the glow. Let's have a look here. Here I have the importer. So I can open it. You can actually see it on the phone as well. And I'm going to import a simple 3D model. So testing assets. By the way, you can actually click the buttons from the phone, but I'm using the touch controller. So here we go. This is the tiger model. I'm going to just grab it like this. And I'm going to select unlit and import. And it is here. It might take a few more seconds to load on the phone. It's not as fast, but it should appear soon. Actually, let's check. Yeah, not load. There it is. So it's loaded on the phone, and you can see I can move it around. I can scale it, make a huge tiger. You can make him tiny and put him in front, and I can actually make modifications. So, for example, I can draw nice whiskers like this. And do I still have the glue? Where did I put the glue? There it is. Let's put tiger back to his whiskers, and let's glue them to his face. There we go. So I made tiger with whiskers. I can again grab this and duplicate him. So before we go, let's actually try one more thing. I'm actually going to use one of the touch controllers to drive the position of the avatar of the phone. So I essentially use it for positional tracking for the phone. So let's join an empty session again. This one. Let's join it, and I'm going to continue in the headset. So I'm in the headset right now, so you can actually again see me. And what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to use the inspector, so I can actually create new behavior or new something that the system, like there is nothing in the system that would be designed to do this, but because the system is so generic, you can actually do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open one inspector for the avatar. So this is the mobile avatar. I'm going to go one step higher and one step higher. Yeah, so this is the user. And I'm going to open again one for myself. And if I go higher in the hierarchy, I need to find my controller. So here it is. And what I'm essentially going to do, I'm going to parent this avatar under this controller. And the way I'm going to do this is essentially I grab the reference to this to the object or the root of the avatar of the mobile phone, and I'm just going to drop it above my controller. And there we go. And now you can see it actually moves together with my controller because now it's in its coordinate system. And what I can do, I can actually zero the position so it's not so far away, so it's at the same position as the controller. So let's just set the position to 0 like this. Yeah, this is good. And let's keep it like that. So now if I can draw something in this space so it's not so empty, I can move the phone around like this. But now what I'm going to do is essentially move the phone in sync with the controller. So let's try that. So for this to work, I actually need to trigger the headset. So it keeps tracking, because when I pull it off my head, it stops tracking. So for this to work, I actually need the headset to keep tracking, even if it's off my head. So I'm just going to grab a piece of cloth and stick it in there. So it will think that I'm still in the headset. It should register. Come on. Ah, there we go. So you can see it's rendering. Otherwise the controllers, they stop tracking and it won't work. And now I'm going to grab the phone. You can see the phone is still connected. And if I grab the other one, where's the other one? Oh, there it is. And if I grab the controller, you can actually see that it works. But I'm just going to grab them both like this. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to hold. And if I grab the camera, I can show you around. So, oops, I think I'm pressing. Yeah, I kept accidentally pressing the button. But you can see I spawned a lot of objects, but you can see I can actually move around. And it's essentially using the touch controller for tracking. It's transferring over the network. It got a little bit choppy because I opened all these by accident. But I'm going to point it. You can see it works. Yeah, pretty cool thing. So that is pretty much all for now. So get the latest alpha, and you can essentially start playing with whether you have HTC Vive or you have the new Oculus with touch controllers. You can start playing. Invite other. Very important thing, if you can invite other people, because Neos is best when you can actually be with multiple people in the session and you can do all of this together. And you can also download. I'm going to release the APK. For Android, the screen version. I will later also release one for Daydream when I get my hands on the hardware. And essentially just start playing with the inspector, try what the system can do, and see for yourself. And soon we all start going to even produce tutorials and example applications and things like that. So you will have a little bit stronger basis to start your work. But if you want to get your hands dirty, even right now in this development stage, you can just get alpha and have fun.